Hello everybody and welcome to the channel. In today's video we're going to be checking out the upcoming Transformers War for Cybertron trilogy, Reformatted Galvatron and Unicron Accessory Pack. This has actually been one that I've been incredibly excited about, and we haven't actually got anything like this since I believe the Centurion Weaponizer set, which of course was essentially a repainted figure much like the form of Reformatted Galvatron, and it also came with a shed load of accessories to actually equip with some of your additional figures. In this case we do in fact get additional ships as well as additional minifigures in order to scale with HasLab Unicron, and in my personal opinion I do find these to perhaps be some of the leftover tier unlocks that maybe they just didn't put on the site as they weren't confident that that goal would be reached, but nevertheless I'm actually super glad to actually have these, and overall this is a pretty solid set. Reformatted Galvatron is a figure that I've pretty much mentioned in all of my Leader Class Kingdom Galvatron reviews as being a repaint that I would really love to see, and I've got to be honest and say that it has turned out awesome. Now we've got a lot to cover in this review, so let's get started by taking a look at Galvatron himself. And so behold Galvatron, this time done in his reformatted colour deco, and actually looking really well done. I personally didn't think Hasbro would have the guts to actually pull off a mostly transparent purple figure, but they've completely done that here with this guy, and I think it looks really impressive. Now of course some of the more integral joints such as the shoulders, the elbows, of course some of the transformation joints and areas which could cause for breakages have been cast out of a more sturdier type of plastic, but for the most part I actually think it works really nicely. And we've also got this really nice almost white cell shading detail just to pick out some of those sharper details of the sculpt, and of course in order to homage to how Megatron / Galvatron very briefly looked when of course he was being reformatted. Now you can see in regards to the head design this looks really awesome. I would have loved to have seen them maybe found a way to have actually cast the eyes out of a different colour of plastic so that when you actually had light shining through them they really did look alive, but as it stands the paint does a decent job. You can see here for the torso region we've got some really nice white cell shading details which actually have been applied exceptionally nicely. Now of course these are probably more than likely 3D printing details or have in fact actually been tampoed on instead of hand painted, but I still think they look really impressive. You can see there very nice angular design here to the torso region. We've got the Decepticon insignia slap bang there in the center, and as we just take a look here towards the shoulders you can see more of that white detailing. Here for the arms it's extraordinary in my opinion to see how precise they've been applied here to the actual treads. This looks super impressive. Of course we'll touch base more with this when we get him transformed up into the tank form, but you can see here for the arms once more some of that nice panel lining detailing, even here for the side of the forearm, which is awesome. And then as we actually spin our attention here to Galvatron's particle beam cannon, this looks really nice, especially this pink color that they've cast the actual barrel out of. I think that looks very nice. You can see here for the actual blaster section itself, this has been cast out of dark purple with some nice white highlights, and then as we just spin our attention down to the lower section, you can see there the actual skirt plate has been cast in purple with some nice white detailing, and the same can also be applied here to the legs. And even as we spin our attention here to the back of Galvatron, you can pick out some details which once again you'll mainly see in the actual tank mode, but it really does look very nice here for the robot mode. Now personally I haven't actually found any issues with this guy despite being made out of transparent purple plastic. I don't really think that he's going to have a tendency to break unless maybe you throw him against the wall, but then that just goes for pretty much any Transformer figure. The plastic is incredibly robust as you would expect, and it's super nice to see that they've literally perfected this transparent plastic. I don't think that this will in fact crack over time. But in terms of articulation, Galvatron has got a ball joint here at the head which can look up, down, side to side, rotate left to right. It's also nice to see that we have in fact got the correctly assembled shoulders on this guy, so they definitely did rectify that with that Gen Select toy version. These arms can rotate the full 360, hinge out to the sides, rotation there at the actual bicep, double joint in the elbow due to transformation, full wrist rotation as well as a waist rotation which is slightly restricted due to the nature of the design, but still pretty decent range. The legs can kick forwards that far, back to that far, out to the sides, rotation at the thigh as well as a 90-degree bend there at the knee, and finally of course we do in fact get an ankle rocker pivot which can go side to side. So overall in terms of the actual Galvatron figure, it's a great looking repaint, honestly a figure that I'm so glad Hasbro and Takara actually released, as of course they kind of teased us with that red version of reformatting Megatron, and it's great to actually see that color scheme implemented here onto a mainline release. Now of course he also comes with additional accessories such as the Matrix of Leadership, this time cast out of transparent purple plastic, well the Matrix is, and then of course the actual chains cast out of solid purple. Looks pretty decent. You can see the sculpt work there for the front looks awesome. This can just be placed over the top of his neck, and we also do get included some rather redundant accessories now, those in the form of actual larger versions of Galvatron's Revenge ship. Now these have finally been cast out of the correct color of plastic but are packaged in with an actual in scale version of the Revenge, so these are definitely going to be redundant. I would have loved to have seen them maybe include perhaps a toy accurate version of Galvatron's rifle, but as it stands I guess for those who never picked up the original Galvatron, these are nice accessories. You can combine them into a huge gunship of sorts and of course implement that onto the figure. Now bringing some of the other Galvatrons here out for a comparison, here we've got reformatted Galvatron compared next to the regular Kingdom Galvatron, both looking really awesome. Once again a drastic repaint, honestly probably one of the best redecos / repaints that we've ever gotten from Hasbro, as it truly is a major departure when in comparison from his previous version. And just to wrap these comparisons up, let's bring in the Gen Select figure. So not only are Hasbro actually getting the most out of this mold, but they're actually giving us some pretty decent repaints. This Gen Select guy I thought was awesome, and this reformatting version may in fact actually be my favourite version of this mold so far. So very quickly turning to transformation, for those of you who perhaps haven't seen some of the previous reviews, of course you're just going to want to flip the wrists inside the hollow cavities and then just snap the forearms into the shoulders. We can take the treads, bring these forwards and just house them there over the top. Of course, repeat the exact same process here for this side, so slide this section here over the top, bring this to the front and of course snap that there into place. We can extend these joints out, angle them out to the sides, spin our attention to the back, disengage this section, take this down and snap that into place. We can then take this panel, bring this forwards, and of course bring the front torso plate forwards and flip the head into this hollow cavity, snap that into place, snap that into place. Once again, I'm actually not taking extra care despite this guy being made out of transparent plastic, so honestly you don't really have to worry about that at all. It is very durable plastic. We can then spin our attention here to the below part of Galvatron, just fold in these heel spurs, take these panels here on the back of the legs and bring them to the sides, so snap that there into place, snap this one into place, angle these like so. We can then flip all of this forwards, snap that there, and of course bring these legs forwards, fold out the toes and these heel spurs here for the tank mode, and then just essentially bring these two halves together, snap that in there, and then snap that section in and this piece here into place. And then for some finishing touches, just bring these pieces here to the front and then just snap these in to these tiny little gaps that we've got going on here. Like so, and of course come to this side and then just snap these panels over the top. Ensure that everything is tabbed in appropriately. We can then bring in some of the accessories such as the particle beam cannon, snap that there into place, and you can in fact actually store this here. However, personally I've always thought that it looked rather ridiculous, but there you've got Galvatron fully transformed up into the tank mode, and once again not looking too bad at all, actually a lot better than I was expecting, and those white details really do bring this guy to life, especially here at this front section. This has turned out so nicely, especially for these skirt panels as well. You can see how they do in fact actually peg into the shoulders, and two have been decked out with that really nice white detailing. You can see for the treads, it just looks super awesome, really like a holographic version of this guy. They've done such a tremendous job. As we just spin our attention here to the back, you can see the solid purple as well as the transparent stuff, but not looking too bad at all, and he still in fact does have the wheels here at the base, so if you wanted to have Galvatron gliding along the ground, then you absolutely can do so. So that just about wraps up the reformatted Galvatron portion of this review. Without further ado, let's take a look at some of those HasLab Unicron accessories. So in regards to some of the accessories that we get with this guy, we get included 3 alternative ships as well as 14 minifigs. Sadly, we don't in fact actually get any form of display base, so I am merely using the version that came with HasLab Unicron himself, but it is more than able to actually accommodate some of these additional accessories. Now, before we touch base with the minifigs, we'll very quickly go through some of these additional ships. So at long last, we actually get a proper in-scale version of Galvatron's Revenge. Now, once more, it does make that version that we got with the Kingdom Leader slightly redundant, especially when you bring this guy out for a comparison. You can see how substantially bigger it actually is when in comparison to this tiny version, and I think the detail on this as well as the sculpt work is in fact actually better despite it being smaller. You can see how it is completely painted in this very nice purple. We've got some nice silver tips here for what I imagine would be the thrusters of this ship, and overall it's just a very nice looking piece. Now, if you do in fact actually have the stand piece that holds the Autobot shuttle with the HasLab Unicron, you can in fact actually port this here into the top, and considering this was removable, you could actually attach this onto Unicron. I'll showcase some images later on in the review of how that looks, but that's super cool. And then of course we also do get included the Quintesson ship. So this is that really abstract corkscrew ship that we see in the movie. This looks really awesome. You can see completely decked out there in silver where the center is concerned, with the tips being cast out of yellow, so there's some nice looking details going on there. And I believe this is actually the ship which pierces through one of Unicron's eyes, so that's pretty cool. You can see how it's also got a tab there for you to actually peg into maybe one of the hands of a larger figure, which is awesome. And then finally, in terms of ships, we do in fact actually get the junk ship, or the Junkion ship, and you can see this looks very faithful to how it appeared in the movie. So you can see they're cast out of yellow with some pretty decent silver highlights, and we've also got some nice thruster detailing there on the back. And much like the other ships, it also does have a port here for you to actually attach that stand piece that comes mandatory here with HasLab Unicron. Now, as we take a look here at the minifigs, I will be keeping them here on this display base as they are so tiny, so it's really going to be difficult for me to actually showcase them. But you can see how we've got there Cyclonus, Starscream, Perceptor, as well as Scourge, and you can also see Ultra Magnus. The detail on them, considering how small they are, is actually pretty awesome. Now, sadly, they're not cast out of their respected colours. I imagine it probably would have cost Hasbro way too much to have individually cast them, maybe out of red, purple, blue, etc. So they have just merely left them grey, which doesn't look the best, but of course, it's the exact same as what we actually got with the Centurion drone pack, and you can see here from the back, the detailing is pretty awesome. As we spin our attention here to this side, we only sadly get included 4 Dinobots, so not 5. So we get there Grimlock, which has got some nice looking sculpt work going on for him. We get Snarl, as well as Slug, and then Swoop. So we are unfortunately missing Sludge, which is a shame, but I don't actually believe he appeared in the movie, so I can completely understand as to why they did skimp out on him. But you can see the detail there on Slug is pretty nice. You can also pick out some nice details there on Snarl and Grimlock, and of course Swoop there, not looking too bad. And then as we take a look here at some of these ones here at the front, we've got Megatron there, we've got RC, we've got what appears to be Thrust, Cup, and of course Soundwave. So all of them have actually been sculpted really nice, and considering how small they are, it's awesome for me to actually be able to recognize which characters these are straight off the bat. So that just goes to show that they have in fact done a pretty decent job. Now, if I actually bring out HasLab Unicron's head here for a comparison with some of these accessories, you can see that in regards to the actual Revenge, I think this scales pretty nicely considering what we saw in the movie. However, I do find the scale to be ever so slightly off with the actual Quintesson corkscrew ship, as of course this does in fact actually fly through the eye of Unicron, and it just looks ridiculously way too big. Like, if this was to fly through him, it would probably take off most of this side of his face. So this is maybe slightly oversized, but then the scale with these Transformers figures is always going to be slightly off, as in the movie there was some mass shifting, of course. Some characters appeared taller than others in certain frames, so you're never going to get it spot on, but you can in fact actually stick this here through Unicron's eye. It can take some manipulating to do, but you can in fact actually inject that there into the eye in order to recreate the scene. So overall, some pretty nice accessories. If you actually own HasLab Unicron, then I think you're going to be more than happy with this, especially considering that we are in fact finally getting some of those ships that actually went amiss with the initial release of Unicron, and these are in fact actually in scale, or as close to being scale as you could probably get with this guy. And so, some final thoughts here for this Transformers War for Cybertron trilogy, reformatted Galvatron, as well as HasLab Unicron accessory pack. Overall, for the most part, I actually really like the way this turned out, especially that repainted version of Galvatron. I think in terms of a reformatted colour scheme, they could have gone something completely different and really maybe screwed this over, but I think they've done a really nice job. The transparent purple looks great. I love the white panel lining detail that we've got going on for this guy. I really do think that without that white detailing, then this may not have looked as good as it does. I really do think they've done an exceptional job, and the colour scheme just works. At long last, we've actually got a proper reformatted Galvatron from probably one of the best Galvatron molds that Hasbro and Takara have ever produced, so can't really fault Galvatron at all. In regards to the accessories, they're definitely a nice bonus. I do like some of the additional ships, such as the Revenge, of course, the Quintesson ship, and the Junkion ship. The details are really nice, as so are the paint, and I also do like the minifigs. I maybe would like to have seen them actually cast out their respective colour schemes, but considering their minute size, I can kind of see as to why maybe that wouldn't have looked the best, especially where the Dinobots are concerned. If you were to just cast them out of mere yellow plastic, then they probably wouldn't have looked all that great at all. So I can kind of understand as to why they've left them in grey, and I think the attention to detail for such small pieces is really nice. And also, if you have in fact got the Titan class arc, then you can also peg some of the Autobots onto that as well to actually have an almost command deck, much like we see in G1 and of course even the War for Cybertron trilogy show. So with all that being said, that just about wraps up my review here for this particular pack. I would love to know down in the comment section below on what you guys think of this set. Is it one that you'll be adding to your collection? And I'd love to know on what you guys actually thought of the Unicron upgrades that we do in fact get in this pack. I thank you guys all so much for watching, and until my next review, I'll see you then. Thanks for watching.